Hey guys, welcome to a Legacy Enchantress video. This is Spatula of the Ages. We're doing the Sunday challenge. We won last week, which is pretty cool. The list I'm going to be running today is pretty much the exact same as I ran last week, with a couple sideboard changes that I'll get into in a minute. I'll just go over it for anyone that's not very familiar with Enchantress. If you already know all that stuff, you might want to skip ahead a few minutes. Basically, so Enchantress is sort of a mid-range combo prison deck, basically, that your goal is to play a turn 1 forest with Wild Growth or Utopia Sprawl on it. And then turn 2, play an Argothian Enchantress, or an Enchantress's Presence, or Green Sun Zenith for Argothian Enchantress. And then turn 3, you want to start casting your enchantments, which are half your deck, and just drawing in a lot of cards, and just basically creating an ever-increasing amount of cards with the Enchantresses, and more mana, because you're making extra land drops essentially with the Wild Growth and the Utopia Sprawls. This version is called the Witch House. It runs Living Wish, and therefore one less Argothian Enchantress. So Living Wish can get Argothian Enchantress, which you're typically gonna do against the blue permission-based decks, because against those decks you're usually the aggressor. But what's nice about Living Wish is it also can allow you to switch on the defense. So against Dark Depths or Sneak and Show, you have options like Caracas, Wasteland. Today I'm going to be trying Tabernacle up Pendrell Vale, Knight of Autumn, Pride Mage, Gaddock Teague, Doomwake Giant are your big control cards. And then sometimes Fairy Macabre. So I mean, then you also get the ability to access Emrakul without having to run it main deck, which is a dead draw against most decks most of the time. And that way, you don't clutter up your deck with unnecessary cards, like a lot of versions of Enchantress end up doing. So your draws are a fair bit more consistent. So the deck is mostly green. And you're running a lot of basic lands. I think it's 10 basic forests in this list I'm running right now, with some fetches and one of each of the relevant duels: Bayou, Savannah, and Tropical Island. And the reason you can get away with that is because you're running Utopia Sprawl, which helps fix colors. You're also running Abundant Growth, which also helps fix colors. So you can get away with a lot of basics, which makes you a very makes your mana base very resilient to a lot of decks trying to take advantage of weaker mana bases like Death and Taxes, or Dragon Stompy, or Canadian Threshold even. Yeah, so you're splashing black just for Doomwake Giant. I'm trying out an Engineered Plague today. There's also Trial of Ambition, which is an enchantment that's basically just a Sorcery Speed Edict. Those are really the only black cards I tend to run. You could try some Witch targets, maybe Leovold even, or Shriekmaw, other stuff. But generally it's for Doomwake Giant, who's a real powerhouse. He just destroys a lot of decks, Elves. He makes Elves it's still not a favorable matchup, but he makes it a lot better than it would be otherwise. He eats True Name Nemesis. Eats Pyromancers. He eats Mother of Runes, does nothing to him to stop him. He's just really powerful against a lot of decks. You're running blue for Estrid's Invocation, which is a new card from Commander. And what it does is pretty cool. So it's a copy enchantment, but every upkeep it flickers. So it's a really powerful combo with Abundant Growth or Ground Seal, because it's just a draw engine on its own. You can copy a Presence, but that actually doesn't come up as much as you might think. That's sort of a secondary thing. You can copy Grass and basically skip the upkeep. Elephant Grass, which is one of our key defensive cards. It's basically a Propaganda or Ghostly Prison, except it also says black creatures can't attack you, and it is cumulative upkeep 1. So, but with Invocation, you can basically skip the upkeep. You just like stack the upkeep underneath the Flicker, and then it comes back with 0 age counters, and you don't have to pay anything for it. For the copy version, anyway. You still have to pay for the original. But yeah, so it combos well with that. It also combos well with Oblivion Ring, especially like the format actually has a lot of like tokens or like things like Merit Lage, for example, or Germ tokens, or like things like Chalice of the Void that like if flickering Orin is actually very powerful because then like you can like remove it and then like next upkeep bring it back as something else, and they can get their Chalice back with 0 counters, or they can get like their Endless one back with 0 counters, or you can reset an Aether Vial or like a Jace that's about to ult. Cool stuff like that. Solitary Confinement is your other main defensive card besides Grass. It's kind of like just you can't lose except to like Emrakul, basically. But it's very expensive because it says you skip your draw step, and at the beginning of your upkeep you have to discard a card. That's another upkeep you can get around with Invocation by copying it, like, you know, save yourself a card, which could matter, like, if you have to put it up sort of early. We only run one because, like I said, it's actually, like, really, it can be very difficult to get it out against most permission-based decks. But against some of the more aggressive decks, you do need access to that. Yeah, and then, like, some white cards in the board, like Gaddock Teague, Pride Mage, you know, Zenith targets mainly, but you know, you have access to other white cards as well. The other blue card running is in the sideboard in the Eye of Chaos, which is World Enchantment that makes instants like twice as expensive, unless it's like Force of Will, in which case it makes it way more expensive. It is a World Enchantment, so don't ever try to copy it with Estrid's Invocation, or you'll just destroy the original. It's a bad situation. Don't do it. Yeah, so that's what we're. That's basically like how the deck works. You know, you go turn 1 Acceleration, turn 2 Enchantress, and from there you just try to like play a bunch of cheap enchantments. We've got 17 1-drops, a couple of 2-drops, not that many. Like you're mainly relying on 1-drops and 3-drops. Yeah. So this thing's about to start, so I'm going to stop this and I'll see you in round 1.